2018 has only just started and is already turning out to be an exciting year in terms of camera equipment. We've got a new camera released from Panasonic and 2 new gimbals from DJI. So let's go have a look. So first we're going to take a look at the new camera from Panasonic. So this here is the Panasonic GH5S. So this here was released very recently, and basically it is their low light video camera, kind of like the close brother of the GH5, which I'm shooting on right now. So if we actually take a look at the body of this camera in a second, it looks remarkably similar to the GH5 in every way, except it's got a lot more red on it. So they've just placed some different red bits. The record button has been changed into an entirely red button, which looks really nice. And one downside to this here is the DSP or display button has been left in the same place, which means you're going to be constantly pushing it with your thumb, or at least I am. Every time that I've used the GH5, I keep pushing that button. You can actually go in and turn it off in the software. Again, it has that flip out LCD screen, which is really nice and useful for filming yourself and getting low shots and high shots and stuff. So let's go take a look at some more of the details. So these here have come from CVP. The GH5S has a 10 megapixel sensor, as the GH5 has a 20.3 megapixel sensor, but this here on the same size as sensor, it basically means you've got large pixels, so you can get better ISO low light performance. So speaking of ISO, the ISO is from 160 as a base ISO all the way up to 51,200. As on the GH5, it's a base ISO of 200 up to a top ISO of 25,600. The extended ISO actually can take you down to 80, to an ISO of 80 on the GH5S, which is really useful because it means you can keep to a lower shutter speed to keep your double shutter speed to frame rate, even in brighter conditions, without having to go to an ND filter quite so soon. But it has a much higher ISO of 102,400, which is a really high ISO. Whether it can actually shoot that high, I haven't tested it, so I wouldn't be able to say. On the GH5, it just brings the ISO down to 100. Now, autofocus speeds here, it's just saying on paper it's slightly slower, it would appear, but it can focus better in low light, so it can focus down to -5 EV, as the GH5 can only focus down into -4, so that's just one stop of better autofocus. Shutter speeds are the same on both, I believe. Then obviously the stills, they're slightly different, but no one really wants to know about stills. So one thing it doesn't have a in-body 5-axis stabilizer like the GH5 has, and that's a real shame because that is one of the best things with the GH5, is that amazing in-body stabilization. It is one of the best on the market. So in terms of video recording, it has 4K 60 frames per second at 8-bit 420, and also it has 4K 30 frames per second at 10-bit 422 video. Variable frame rate, which is kind of like slow motion, it can shoot up to 240 frames per second, and that's in comparison on the GH5, it can only shoot up to 180 frames per second at full HD, which is your slow motion. So it's a little bit slower there. Has Vlog built in, as it is an optional extra with the GH5, so that's your log format, your flat image format. And then if we move over to the price, so the price is at the moment £2,200, body only, so it's a little bit more expensive than the GH5. So would I change from the GH5 to it? Probably not, given that I do both photos and video. Also, I don't need that extra boost in low light and high ISO performance. So moving on to camera stabilizes. So I've got the iPhone 8 Plus and I've been shooting video on it for a while, but one thing that this doesn't have, it is really hard to get a good stable shot. It doesn't have obviously as good at image stabilization as something like the GH5, but you can get stabilizers for it, and there is a new one which has just been released from DJI, which is the DJI Osmo Mobile 2, which looks really good. I'll try and get hold of one of these because definitely it's going to be amazing for getting much better shots on your iPhone. And really, to get great shots, you need something like this for your phone. So yeah, it has basically all the different modes that you would expect from something like this. You can also shoot portrait in it for things like your Instagram stories and such like that. But the one that I'm really excited about is actually the DJI Ronin S. So I've been looking for something like a motorized stabilization platform for my GH5 for a while, and the reason why I don't like any of the other kind of DJI ones is they're massive, big two-handled rigs, and they're like hard to get to wherever you're going, and if you can't get them to the shot, what's the point in having them? That's why I've kind of stuck with something like a glide cam. But this here is much smaller, a really compact thing, but it has big powerful tools in it. So you can attach things like focusing systems and stuff like that, so other people can do the focusing and stuff. You can take it off of the single-handed rig and put it onto a two-handed rig, which is really useful. Has different smooth track modes. It also has one they call, so they have a new sport mode, which I guess just allows you to get smoother shots whilst running and sprinting and doing really fast action stuff. But the other thing I like about it is the rear bracket thing is actually at an angle, which means from behind you can actually see what's on the monitor. As with some of the other systems, you can't do that because of the way they're set up. So that's some of the highlights of stuff which has come out recently, in my opinion. So leave a comment down below if you've got anything that you personally has caught your eye and you're really excited about in this that's coming out in the next year, and check out some of my other videos, and if you like this video, hit the thumbs up button, and yeah, see you in the next one.